Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and before we begin this meeting, we'd like to pay respect to the First Nations, both past and present, and acknowledge the important role First Nations people continue to play within our community. Could I have approval of the agenda as circulated? There is no addendum today. Comments or changes? Are we okay with the agenda as circulated? Okay. And is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? None. So we move to a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular and closed session meetings of Council held October 18th, 2021 as circulated. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move that motion, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Cole.
I will second that motion.
All in favor of approving the minutes? Thank you. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the staff reports as presented on the agenda for the November 1st, on the November, sorry, I'd like to go back to October, but it's actually November 1, as presented on the agenda for November 1, 2021 meeting of Council. That includes the financial update, the report on service level change proposals, and a confidential staff report about the cost of living. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne?
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
Yeah, seconded.
Thank you. All in favor of receiving the staff report? Thank you. What's going to do this? Okay, so, Lee?
Yes, Your Worship. Sorry, I can't hear you. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Lee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen. Don't go anywhere yet.
Lee is reporting from MHBC.
Your Worship, can you see my screen?
It's coming. Okay, now I can now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of Council, and members of the public. My name is Lee Bull, and I'm an associate with MHBC, a planning consulting firm in Barrie. I'm here today as a deputation before Council to present an overview of a draft Township Ministerial Zoning Order, MZO, that is being prepared on behalf of the Township. What is a Minister's Zoning Order? A Minister's Zoning Order is a planning tool available under the Planning Act, which allows the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing to make certain decisions respecting planning matters. The Minister has the authority to directly enact zoning regulations that would establish the principle of development on lands. Should the application for an MZO be approved by the Minister, further municipal approvals would be required, including draft plan of subdivision approval and entering into a subdivision agreement with the Township, similar to other applications that follow the typical Planning Act process that Council is familiar with. Any specific issues or constraints to development would be addressed through these remaining Planning Act applications. The area under consideration for the MZO is shown on the current slide on the screen. Irregular in shape, generally the area under consideration abuts the southern border of the town of Parry Sound. Osler Park Drive forms the eastern boundary and Rose Park Road the western boundary. The southernmost boundary is located between concession 10 and 11. The land holdings comprise roughly 700 acres in total, and there are a number of natural features and 2 rail lines that traverse the study area. The opportunity provided by the MZO is to address the housing stock in Seguin, where most of the housing and the housing in the surrounding area is at a price point that is unattainable for most. Through an MZO, the township could have lands zoned for residential development. This would provide the opportunity for future subdivision development containing a mix and diversity of housing styles at a price point that makes home ownership attainable for most, including the existing residents of Seguin and the surrounding area, in addition to those that are attracted to the area due to new employment opportunities. Technical studies, including an environmental impact study and a functional servicing report, are being completed in support of the application to the minister. The intent of the environmental impact study is to determine any constraints to development from an ecological or natural heritage perspective. The purpose of the functional servicing report is to determine whether it is technically feasible to service the lands with water and sanitary services. The findings from both of these studies will be included in a planning justification report, which will be submitted to the minister in support of the application for the MZO. Today's presentation before council is an opportunity to communicate to the community members of Seguin and make them aware of the proposal. Over the next couple of days, letters will go out to the adjacent municipalities and local First Nations, advising them of the proposal and seeking any comments, letters of support, or council resolutions of support to share with the minister. In terms of timelines, the technical studies in support of the application are to be completed this month. The public is being made aware of the proposal today during this meeting, and as noted earlier, letters will be going out to the adjacent municipalities and First Nations over the next couple of days. Once the technical studies are completed, the planning justification report will be completed and a zoning order drafted. A staff report will come back to council at their meeting scheduled for December 6th. And should council support a positive recommendation from staff to proceed with the MZO application, a formal submission will be made to the minister's office later in December. That completes the presentation for today. I'd like to thank your worship and members of council for allowing me to appear before you today. I'd be happy to do my best to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Lee. Are there any questions from council? Could you use your little yellow hand if you wish to ask Lee a question? Must have been a perfect presentation, Lee, because I see no questions. We knew this was coming, and it is exciting that it is now in the public domain. So we will be watching for reaction from our neighboring municipalities, and I appreciate all the work that you and your colleagues have done to get us to this point. I know your timeline is short, but we will support you as best we can.
Thank you, your worship.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and I see no questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. So we can move on to the financial update, and I'll ask Michelle to speak to that.
Good afternoon. It's actually a pretty self-explanatory update. We're starting to see some of the results from programs that are completed. Things like water quality, and with the museum completed for the year. Again, we're looking at an operational surplus of $176,000, which is up significantly from $45,000 at the last financial update. And that's fairly common for this time of year for us to see that kind of growth. Capital continues, and the reserves have very little activity in them, which again is fairly common for this time of year. With respect to our COVID funding, what we will start to do in the next 2 months is to review some of our operations and determine which revenue streams and expenditure streams have been particularly hit by COVID and arrange to pull that money out of the COVID reserve. But that will happen in the next 2 months. So
Thank you. It's a good report. It's nice to see positive numbers. Are there any questions from council? Again, must be a perfect report. No questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. And in terms of the service level change proposals, will John and Dominique talk to them?
I'll maybe start us off, Your Worship. So as part of the 2022 budget preparation, and for you this evening are two service level change proposals that the administration is recommending to council. Both are fairly well outlined. Obviously, one around bylaw pilot program being converted to full-time, and then some waste collection. That, Your Worship, happy to answer any questions. Michelle and myself both are here, as well as Dawn. The team is ready to answer any questions that you may have.
Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. So Jason, on page 2 of your report, it talks about 81,000 operating for bylaw, 37,000 for waste. Could you explain what those dollars actually are for? Just a little more. Could you drill down a bit? Just to explain it to me. I'm not quite sure what that means. Thank you.
Happy to jump in, and Michelle, I'm confident will help support, but as you read through the service level change proposals on the subsequent pages, you'll find the breakdown of the costs.
Oh, okay.
Allocating. So it is composed of salary, benefits, vehicles, equipment.
Okay.
So in the service level change proposals, there is a detailed breakdown.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I will read the motions then. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby tentatively approve the attached service level change proposal for the bylaw enforcement officer supervisor, which is 2 full-time equivalents, and that Council does hereby direct staff to include the proposal's budget impact in the 2022 draft budget. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
I so moved your motion, Mayor.
Thank you. And could I have it seconded by Councillor Finson?
I second that.
All in favor of approving this change? Thank you. That's carried. And the second motion. Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby tentatively approve the attached service level change proposal, install and maintain litter, recycling, and dog waste stations at public parks, beaches, and trails, and that Council does hereby direct staff to include the proposal's budget impact in the 2022 draft budget. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move that motion, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Cole.
Second that motion.
All in favor? Thank you, and that is carried, and that is a welcome addition to our public spaces.
Yes.
Thank you. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby accept the resignation of Jennifer Porter from the Township of Seguin Humphrey Recreation Committee and thank Ms. Porter for her service on the committee. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne?
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
I second that, Mayor.
All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby accept the resignation of Tina Getty from the Township of Seguin Finance Committee and thank Ms. Getty for her service on the committee. I have a motion from Councillor Collins.
I so move your motion, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that bylaw number 2021-087, being a bylaw to establish the terms of reference for the Township of Seguin Finance Committee, and to repeal bylaw number 2020-008 and all other bylaws and resolutions or parts thereof contrary hereto or inconsistent herewith, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne
So moved, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
Second that, Mayor.
And I'm going to ask Jason to speak to it a little before we vote.
Your worship, members of council, I've been working with the Finance Committee for the last number of months on a few initiatives. As we dug in, we realized that some of them slightly slipped outside of the mandate of their. Specifically, they're assisting with things like tactical implementation of the strategic plan, starting to look at what the future is for the Finance Committee. The committee felt it necessary of the terms of reference, and that draft is before council.
Are there any questions? Councillor Moffat.
I don't have a question, but Jason is cutting in and out, and I'm not sure why, because you were very clear. So I didn't hear, I got the gist. I'm not asking Jason to repeat it. I got the gist of it, but I just want to let you know that it's, for some reason, his voice is cutting in and out.
Okay, thank you for the feedback, because we have a brand new telephone today. So it shouldn't be happening. We thought we'd fixed it, but keep us posted on how it goes, please. Councillor Osborne. Councillor Osborne, you're muted.
Along the same vein, Mayor, a few moments ago, your image froze 2 or 3 times as well.
Okay. Did it freeze for other people too? Ted? Yes?
For me.
Pardon? Oh. Okay. I will keep the feedback going. All in favor of the motion before us for the terms of reference for the Finance Committee? Thank you, and that is carried. And the next is pretty self-explanatory. We do this annually. You have before you the dates and times of the Remembrance Day services. Some are on the Friday prior to Remembrance Day, and some are on Remembrance Day themselves. So I'll go through them and ask who would like to attend on behalf of the Township. In Foley, it'll be on November 7th at the United Church, but outdoors. Are there any volunteers for Foley? Councillors Moffat and Cole, are you recording this? Yes. Orville is...
Sorry, Mayor, just a quick question. Normally we have a wreath or something. Would we coordinate that drop-off pickup as part of this?
Told where to pick it up and when.
Okay.
Yeah, that's in place through the clerk's office. So,
Perfect. Thank you.
and Orville is actually on November 11th.
Yes, and I will be
Ted?
attending. Yes,
And
I will
I'm
be
also
attending.
prepared to. If you're comfortable, may I come as well, Ted?
Absolutely, Ed. Absolutely.
Okay. Okay,
All
thank
right.
you. Humphrey, everything is happening in the classroom, and we're not invited because of COVID. Can't go to the school. And then Rosso, it will be November 7th outside the Memorial Hall. I'm assuming at the back where it was last year. To get that clarified, who would like to attend that? Gail? And I'll be happy to go to that one as well. Have what you need? We do. And you'll tell us what to do about these wreaths? Okay, thank you. We take our instructions from the clerk's office on this. So we move on to council reports.
Mhm.
And I can't remember who went first last time, but Gail, how about you go first?
Okay. I just had one meeting, my museum meeting with the museum committee. Lots of interesting things going on there. I've had also, Anne as well has had an email about the Wildcat Point again, about the stuff that's still going on there. I have a meeting tomorrow, 10 in the morning at the Rossel Lake College. They're opening the Robert Carroll Memorial Trail tomorrow. So I'll be attending that. And that's about it. Thank you.
Councillor Collins.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The only meeting that I had since our last council meeting was with our CAO meet and greet. I set up a meeting with the DSAB CAO, and we had our meeting on Tuesday of last week, and it was more or less a meet and greet. We did establish with them that we would be working more closely together with where our monies, our $1.5 million in tax levies are actually being contributed to. And so Jason and Tammy will be working together. They've exchanged their business cards, and I'm looking forward to them getting together in the future and nailing this all out for our Seguin taxpayers. Thank you.
Thanks, Ted. And if I'm not, am I correct that we are the biggest contributor to DSAP?
Absolutely, the largest contributor in the District of Parry Sound. We contribute more than 24.5% of the monies that the rest of the other 21 members. So yes, we are the largest contributor of monies for our tax levies. Absolutely. This is why we want to get a handle on things. It's about time. The last meeting that occurred between Seguin and DSAP was in 2009. So yes, it's been that long. So I thought it'd be best that we get back into the groove again with them. So, and now that we're going into the housing as well, which was stated today, she was trying to get that out of us, exactly what was coming up on November 1st, but we held tight. Jason and I held tight, and yes, so this is all going to work. This is all for the future, and actually working together.
Great.
So I'm really pleased because I'm a housing advocate anyway, so I'm very pleased.
Great. Councillor Fellner.
Thank you, Mayor. Had a library board meeting since our last council meeting. We've got some challenges there with staff. It seems to be a habitual thing. We're looking at some different, maybe some different solutions to try to get some more longevity out of staff. Maybe something a little bit more stable than what we've experienced the last few years. In the meantime, Stephanie's working very, very hard filling in all the gaps, and needs to be commended for her effort, I think. And if Craig would, do you think we've got the ability to share the screen, Craig, with that picture? Yeah. So last week was a real watershed week for Park to Park and the Seguin Trail and the Seguin Snowmobile Club and District 10. And last week, a new bridge was installed across the Seguin River. So the Seguin River is about 100 feet wide there, and you can just see to your right the old railway bridge. It's wooden pilings. It degraded to the point where we weren't going to be able to have it open this year. It really, this thing came right down to the wire. And this is sort of the link between the east and the west. Without a bridge across the Seguin River, we were sort of cut off from Highway 11, and Highway 11's cut off from us. So there's been a collaboration in the works for a number of years to put a new bridge over here. Jack Steenhoff and Barry and Bill Park from the OFSC and Bill Parks and Park to Park. This year we heard of some funds that were going to be available through the OFSC. So Public Works helped us put a tender together. We tendered out the contracting end of installing the bridge. We applied for the funds, and lo and behold, we were approved. Vanessa Bachman applied to Canada Trails Council for the balance of the funds, and that was approved. And in both cases, we were told the approvals were easy because of Seguin's participation in the revitalizing of the trail. So that was, I think we made the right decision there. So anyhow, it got launched across. The mayor and I went out to have a look at it. It's very impressive, I thought, anyhow. Environmentally, it was a superb solution because we didn't touch anything that was in the ground or in the water. So I just thought that's a good news story. It's always nice to see a good news story, and I think you guys would enjoy this one. So that's all I have to report.
Mary, congratulations to you and the entire team. That's a big bridge. I had no idea what I was going out to see until I got there, and it will make an enormous difference to everyone using the trail. So be proud of what you and your team have accomplished. It's impressive. Councillor Osborne.
Nice bridge, Terry. Looking good. So I was at a virtual EMS meeting on Thursday. In spite of a surplus with EMS, which is irregular this past year, and we have to keep in mind, Ministry of Health is always 6 months to a year behind in funding. We went through the budget, and Dave Thompson, the manager of EMS, advised us there was going to be a 9.8% increase in the levy, which rather shocked most of the members of the committee from the different municipalities. So we deliberated alternatives to that. And as a temporary stopgap, two things were considered. We have what's called upstaffing in the summer out of Parry Sound because of the influx of tourists and the number of incidents that occur, the number of calls that occur during the summer. And at one point we talked about chopping that upstaff by 3 months, which would be dangerous because when one ambulance is gone from this area or in use, we're without and have to call in Muskoka or some other South River or Huntsville. So in the end, we decided to cut a month off the upstaffing, 2 weeks in the spring, 2 weeks in the fall, so as not to hinder us for our service in the summer, and take $120,000 from reserves temporarily to bring down the levy to 6.2. Now, EMS has been struggling with this budget for a number of years, and they tend to get pushback from the municipalities every time there's an increase. And part of that increase is due to the number of residents that are here full time now, even though they're considered seasonal. there's more people here in the off season than normal. And that's a fact we're going to have to deal with. More people are relocating permanently, even though census may not show that at this time. So EMS is going to have to communicate with the municipalities to indicate we are going to have substantial increases every year, more paramedics needed, and more cars. We only have 15 cars and 75 paramedics for the whole of West Parry Sound. That goes right up to calendar. The other problem we're having, Frank may give a presentation. He's the manager of the paramedics, where there's been a loss of staff from the EMS. 15 members have left out of 75. 25% of the paramedic workforce has left. He's been able to recruit 6 or 8 at this point, but the problem there is as well, because paramedics go through a classroom type training academic program, and then they go to a clinical on-site program. Due to COVID, that wasn't happening, so new recruits are scarce all over the province, and he's having trouble recruiting new people. So, and part of this, we don't know how much of it is COVID resistance, that the reason this 15 people left, or whether they were just wanting to retire and get out of the business. But it's an issue. We're going to try and deal with it. But just to warn the township, it looks like approximately add 6.2% to last year's levy at this point, and that seems to be the consensus of the committee, and each municipality will have to deal with it. So it's an uphill battle, EMS, and it's necessary spending because lives depend on it. This is not a nice to have, this is a must. So that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. Everybody's costs are going up, and I hear the shortage of paramedics every time I attend a hospital meeting too. So it is, as our population ages too, that's another drain on our resources. Councillor Coles.
Thanks, Mayor. Mine may be a bit of a good news story, otherwise, compared to what we just heard. But as a result of us surrendering the beds at Belvedere a few weeks ago that we passed a resolution, we had a meeting on November the 19th with the long-term care ministry senior staff and the deputy minister, and a really positive meeting. They will be coming to Parry Sound, including the minister, to meet with the West Parry Sound Health Center and the staff there in preparation for understanding the full commitment that they're about to make to the West Parry Sound Health Center in terms of transfer of the beds and building the new facility at the center. So that was an unbelievably positive meeting. Everybody left excited about what the next steps would be. Then on the 25th of November, we had a finance committee meeting for Belvedere. And it's another good news story. The finances of Belvedere have never been in better shape. And you do understand that they returned $250,000 to Seguin earlier in the year, which is currently sitting in a reserve. But there may be more money coming back to Seguin in the near future, because every month we're in a better position. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that the West Parry Sound Health Center is we're co-managing in the sense that there's common buying. They're buying for Belvedere and for Lakelands, the two long-term care facilities. November the 27th, we had a Belvedere Board of Management meeting, which was just mainly on the financial side, and a very positive meeting as well. And then in the afternoon of the 27th, we had our ad hoc meeting, the one that I chair, which again was our consultant confirmed the satisfaction that the minister had with our meeting with them on the 19th. He had a conversation with the Minister of Long-Term Care subsequent to our meeting, so that was all confirmed at that point. And they are in the process of strategizing to, as I said, come here and meet with the West Parry Sound Health Center staff to do the next steps. So having said that, I just wanted to remind everybody that our Seguin's percentage of the Belvedere financing was 37%. So amongst the highest of all the groups that we participate with. The funding is going down. But once this is done, there's 8 municipalities still own the property in Perry Sound that Seguin, that the Belvedere residence sits on. So that, as you know, we did have a discussion about this some time ago, but there are plans to take that and convert it into residential complexes in the town of Perry Sound. But rather than sell the property outright at this point, we would prefer to wait and do it as part of a development which will increase the revenue to all of the municipalities in terms of maximizing what the value is there. So that's coming really well, and I can tell you, I'll keep you posted on when the minister comes to Perry Sound to talk to the West Perry Sound Health Center. The other thing that you may have heard already, or I don't know whether the notice is out yet, but Donald Sanderson and Jim will be doing a presentation to all of the municipalities at the end of this month. I believe it's the 29th. They'll be sending out an invite to everyone to talk about what's happening in terms of Belvedere and the joining with Lakelands in terms of long-term care. So that's pretty much it, but exciting stuff, and so far so good. Just keep our fingers crossed.
Thank you very much, Art. I know you're having an awful lot of meetings, and we appreciate you keeping Seguin in the lead because we are the lead funder.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Thank you very much. Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Mayor. There's been several meetings with Muskoka Watershed Board of Directors over the last couple weeks. We've met on a variety of topics, mainly though focused on governance and how to move Muskoka Watershed from a executive run to a board of directors. So we continue to plod down a process. So quite a few meetings associated with that. Attended a webinar by Georgian Bay Association, Georgia Bay Forever, called What's Happening, What's New, back on the 23rd, which was basically a symposium on water levels in the area. Interesting group of professionals and experts that attended that. Another board meeting on the 26th with Muskoka Watershed. On the 27th, the Integrated Community Energy and Climate Action Plans ICECAP group. We had I think this is our second meeting of the Community Action Group, which looks at transportation. And we have another meeting scheduled in a couple of weeks. So it's a growing group of there's about 10 of us or so, looking at a variety of transportation options and actions that we could complete. Received several emails on planning and seasonal roads matters. Last but not least, I'd like to thank all the ones that attended the Foley Halloween drop-off party. Also would like to thank the lead at the Township, Debbie Allen, for her efforts to get staff involved as well as equipment. I understand it went over quite well, and really appreciative of all those efforts. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And I don't have a lot to report. On the 26th of October, I attended the airport operations meeting, and there are new tenants in some of the hangars. Their businesses are booming. On the 27th, I had a pleasure of attending the Humphrey Elementary School cycling demonstration, which was funded by the Near North Board of Education, and it was really impressive. Dominique gave an outstanding speech at that event and talked about the importance of active transportation in and around Seguin. And the grade sixes put on an unbelievable cycling demonstration. I think all of the adults standing there watching as they were like a marching band crossing and everything else. We were all holding our breath, but there were no crashes. And then they went and rode their bicycles, all of which the bicycles are provided by the school board, so they're all the same. They all have the same helmets. They all know how to take apart a bicycle and fix it. And then they went and rode the bikes through the Humphrey Trails because they were learning how to do cross-country biking. So it was very impressive demonstration. And then on the 28th, as Councillor Vellner mentioned, I had the privilege of going with him to see this new bridge and meet the people that are installing it, who were really enthusiastic about what they'd done. So it was a positive week last week with bicycles and bridges. And I will be at the Robert Carreau Memorial tomorrow and speaking on behalf of the township there. I don't know whether Gail saw the detailed invitation that we got. It includes not only the memorial presentation, a walk on the trail, but also an invitation to participate in the polar bear swim at 3 o'clock. The mayor is not planning to do that part of it. And I think that's it. Thank you. So I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the board and committee agendas and minutes and the correspondence as presented on the agenda for November 1st, 2021. Council. I have a motion by Councillor Cole.
I will so move.
And seconded by Councillor Osborne. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion now that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby proceed to a closed meeting at 5:10 p.m. in order to address matters pertaining to litigation or potential litigation concerning North Sandy Plains Road development properties and building condition, some personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees, and this refers both to the North Sandy Plains Road development properties and the West Perry Sound Recreation and Cultural Center, and a human resources matter. A proposed or pending acquisition of land that relates to the North Sandy Plains Road and the West Perry Sound Recreation and Cultural Centers, and some labor relations or employee negotiations considering the cost of living adjustment recommendations and human resources matters. I have a motion by Councillor Collins to move to close,
I so moved your motion, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
All in favor of moving